Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to the CRA shall be placed in the box on the table.
The purpose of the City Council meeting is to discuss city business, and proper decorum must be displayed by all in attendance. Public input and participation is encouraged. However, all persons in attendance shall comply with the rules for meeting procedures and shall refrain from any action that disrupts the orderly proceedings of the council meeting or hinders a council from performing its duties. No person shall interfere with the rights of others to speak, hear, see, or attend the proceedings, make threats of violence, disrupt the proceedings with shouting, fail to confine remarks to the agenda item under consideration, nor continue to speak after the allotted speaking time has expired, as these actions shall be considered disruptive and disorderly. The mayor shall caution any person who violates these provisions and disrupts the orderly proceedings of the council meetings, and they shall be directed to comply. Any person who fails to comply, as cautioned, shall be ruled out of order, shall forfeit the remainder of their speaking time on the agenda item under consideration, and will be requested to return to their seat. Persons who fail to comply as directed shall be subject to removal from the council chambers by law enforcement or such other actions as may be reasonably necessary to enforce these regulations. Notwithstanding, the mayor may order the immediate removal of any person from the chambers who possesses a threat to property or life safety. Nothing in this section shall be construed to limit or restrict a person's right created by the Constitution, law, ordinance, or regulation.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Titusville Community Redevelopment Agency to order. It is January 13th, 2026 at 5:30. City Attorney, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you, City Attorney. And for the invocation, we'll have a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to the Executive Director, has the board had an opportunity to review the minutes from last meeting? All right, seeing no discussion, anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
All right, thank you, Vice Chairman. Please push your microphone button next time. I have a motion from Vice Chairman Cole. Member Moscoso?
Second.
I have a second from Member Moscoso. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Executive Director.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and members of the board. We have a relatively light agenda this evening. We have one item under old business, item 7A, and that is the Broad Street Streetscape Design Scope of Services. And the recommended action is to recommend to City Council to approve the continuing consulting contract CO23Q006, Task Order 9 with ACOM in the amount of $440,825 to provide consulting and design services for the Broad Street Streetscapes project, and authorize city manager to execute the task order and approve the associated budget amendment at the next regular city council meeting. And we have our CRA development planner, Sue Williams, who is here to answer any questions.
Good evening. I'm here to answer any questions I can. I might be relying on Kevin Cook if there's a lot of the technical ones that I'm not familiar with. But is there any way I can help you with this? This is the design only for the Broad Street. As you see, there's a couple different aspects to it: the project administration, the site data collection and analysis, the concept design and visioning. There's stakeholder and CRA engagement, and design development at 30%, 60% in the final plans. And the schedule and budget. The anticipated design schedule totals approximately 38 weeks, excluding city review periods. The total lump sum cost for the base scope of services is $440,825, with fees allocated by task and milestone. There is an optional wayfinding and signage design task that was available for $25,130 if authorized by the CRA and the city. That has not been calculated into this. There is $505,000 in the Broad Street parking account. Staff is recommending a budget adjustment of the $65,847 that's left remaining, been in the Spaceview Pier account, and $94,463 from the CRA restricted fund balance account. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Member Stokel?
Yes, thank you. So a couple questions. One, just to clarify, we have already approved this project. This is just one of the steps that you're bringing before us.
That is correct. There'll be other steps too, but this is the first one.
Okay, and then two more questions. One, are you looking for anything specific from us to say, actually, we don't like this idea or anything, or it's more of a whole package approving this, what they're doing?
It's more of a whole package,
Okay.
but we do want to bring it before you to see it and be able to review it.
And then this one might be more of a procedures question. What is, and this is not only related to this item, but I've been thinking about this. What is our procedures if, for some reason, they come back and say, actually, this is taking more money than we had anticipated, we need more money? What do we have, what policy do we have in place to account for that?
I'm going to hand that over to
Okay.
Kevin Cook because it's a contract.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if they were to request a change order, depending on the value, it would come back before this board. If it falls within the city manager's authorized ability and it's budgeted, we would do that administratively up to the 25,000 point.
Okay, and I guess my question is coming from more like with other projects potentially. Do we have any safeguards in place? Say somebody comes in to bid the project, they underbid it to get it, and then they say, actually, we need this to get the project. Do we have any safeguards in place to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, this particular contract was bid under the CCNA procedures, which are different than regular competitive. And Kevin is a real expert on it. I think he can give you a better idea of how it's structured and what the procedure is in case the bids come in higher.
Okay.
Is your concern with this one or potential construction?
Potential construction.
Okay. So safeguard and construction would be, they bid on a line item basis, so asphalt base, sidewalks, every bid individually priced. You can look at that at all the vendors. So you would see the anomaly where someone came in at $1 versus the $100 anomaly. Or if someone deliberately overloaded one line item in it, it would likely throw the total off to where they wouldn't be awarded. But you can check that. Purchasing goes
Okay.
through a process verifying. If there's any anomalies where someone zeroed out an item or made a deliberately low bid on one piece, it would be pretty clear that they were trying to lowball to get below everyone else. Usually you review harder the ones that come in substantially lower than the 5 or 10 other people. So that's
Okay.
how you could control if a vendor is, pricing his way to a change order future. And then in construction, when we bid it by a unit price for asphalt or sidewalks, trees, they're literally getting paid to put the tree in. So they don't put in 3 trees, they get paid for 3 trees. So it's very hard at that point to manufacture a change order. Because if no condition changed on the site, they don't get a change order. Usually a change order is generated when the city says, hey, I need extra work over here. Give me a change order for more sidewalk on the side street, not necessarily on the base bid.
Yeah, I guess I'm still a little bit confused as to, okay, if they bid it and they said it and things come in more, why do they just not eat that cost? Because they said that that's what they were proposing for us and that's the contract we signed.
They would if no condition changed on the site, they're liable for the cost.
Okay.
But if they say they're putting a pipe in, they find something that wasn't located by the engineer,
Okay.
then that's a condition where they can come back and say, hey, this was not foreseen when we bid. Let's negotiate how much I'm getting paid for this. Normally, we collect time and material rates from them for that purpose. So, hey, there's a conflict. Either we
Okay.
take care of it or they do. We negotiate that price and we come back with a change order. But if the conditions on this ground never change, they don't get a change order.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had to.
Thank you, Member Stokel. Member Moscoso?
Yeah, I had a similar question to that, to Member Stokel. And Kevin did a great job of explaining. I'm going to ask him to go into a little bit of depth explaining the CCNA, because my question was, when we're doing the engineering, how did we choose AECOM versus Kemley Horn? And so I'm going to ask Kevin to explain that because I have a little bit of sticker shock with this price just for engineering. It's a lot of money. And then I'm not sure what was the total cost. It could be around 12 million. Is that correct? No?
I believe it was more like 2.7 million.
All right, I'm off a lot. Okay, well, that's great. I just saved us $10 million. So, but if you could just explain what the CCNA is, that was really comforting for me to understand how that process works.
Okay, so the city, we procure continuing consultant services through the CCNA process. We issue an RFP in a broad scope for, in this case, roadways, landscaping, utilities, and we have vendors come back and say, here's our qualifications, here's our resumes for all of our staffs, here's our financials that show us your overhead. The city normally caps their overhead like the DOT does. And a committee evaluates I think this was probably 15 vendors at the time, and we score them based on all their qualifications and ability to handle more work, ability to comply with schedules and cost. And at the end of that period, we selected 5 total vendors, 2 of which were specific to public works and 3 additional were added for the water resource utility side. But 5 total consultants came out of that process as the selected vendors. Then we negotiate with them their hourly rates for every classification in their company. So every engineer, every scientist, every piece and part, we negotiate their overhead multiplier and their hourly rate to set what they can bill us for the next 5-year period. Once they're awarded, then we evaluate. So if a specialty project comes up, I'll use an example of the ASR system for the utility. We may evaluate the vendors, see who can do it. Some vendors won't touch that, some will. So that allows us to pick from that pool who would then be asked to give us a work order. So in this case, being roadway, there are really 2 main ones that will do roadway work, ACOM and Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn has a higher volume of work, so ACOM was going to pick up the next one for our area. They've done really good work on they're doing Hopkins right now for sidewalks. They did our fuel tanks at the fleet facility, a lot of utility work. So once they were picked to do it, they will go through at that point and we give them a scope and they evaluate that scope and provide us the pricing based on the scope the city provided them. In some cases, they are using subs. They'll use a sub for surveying because no company has their own surveying staff any longer. And that's about $100,000 going to surveying right now. But that's kind of how it works. Up to $7.5 million of construction costs, you can issue a CCNA approved consultant services work order. It would have taken additional, 3 to 4 months had we issued a specific design package for this to go out to RFP, and we would have landed potentially with the same vendors again, probably at different rates because the contract's aged a couple of years, so they would probably come in at higher rates. But I think you would have got the same vendors back. And in some cases in the past, we get no responses. We actually have to go to our continuing services and ask them to respond anyway. So.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Vice Chairman?
I just wanted to maybe piggyback on some things that Kevin said, just to kind of allay some of your fears. In a design situation, the only change orders that should come about would be user change orders. Normally, a design would just flow because they have to do the design. In a construction project, the change orders could be, as Kevin said, for varying site conditions. It could be something that we want. But if it's a change order that is included in the contract, once we review it, we recognize that this is something they should be doing anywhere. So there's very strict control over change orders. Change orders in construction projects are a little bit different than change orders in design projects because you don't really have that many. I had a situation years ago when we were replicating what was being done at Kennedy Space Center at Vandenberg, and it was a design era, and we went back on the A&E architectural engineering firm for $25 million because of the error that they made in the design. So, like I said, the design is one thing where you wouldn't have a lot of change orders, but in construction you could because it could be varying site conditions. But if it's a problem of something that was designed and it was designed wrong, then you can go back on the architect to come back with something like that.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Thank you, board members. And at the end of the day, they're designing what we're asking them to design. So, unless we change our minds, it should roughly stay the same price. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 2.5 million that was initially approved approximately for this project, this is a part of that cost.
Correct. That was based on the 2022 study that was done. Yes, at that point, it was 2.5 million, and that was what was approved.
And I believe from my conversation with Mr. Parrish, that once this kind of moves forward and we look into different financing options for the CRA to help do this, then this cost would be kind of bundled into that. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So hopefully that'll alleviate some concerns. But at the end of the day, it's a big swing for our downtown community, and that was kind of our discussion that we had up here last time this came before us. So with that being said, is there a motion, City Clerk? Oh, City Clerk?
There's one card, Stan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnston. I'm a professional engineer. I'm looking at page 25, and it shows the task order for professional engineering. It says total amount of task order prior to this task order, over $1 million. Total amount award, including this task order, $440,000. So it's $1.457 million. It looks like to me it's not a very difficult task to do this. It's straightforward stuff. It's not complicated, except maybe an EV station. Is that what we're going to have, an EV station there also? Electrical charge station? That's what it mentions in there. Are we having an EV station? Does anybody know? Nobody knows whether we're having one. It mentions it in here in the
Mrs.
task.
Johnson, just keep going. I'll
Oh,
ask
just
your
keep on
questions.
talking about it and nobody knows
I
about it.
think that there is an EV station. Sue, could you speak to that?
What this allows us to do is to research it. So we've been researching for the two at the Welcome Center, and no one is interested in that because it's not a bank.
Well, okay, here's what's going on, is that I see that 1.45 million, and I see that myself, as it looks like to me, this is simple, this is really not complicated stuff to do. So somebody's making a lot of money from the engineering. And we've already, for Broad Street, we've already considered $6 million for the parking station years ago, and it was on the agenda for I think at least 6 years. So Kimley Horn took a lot of money from us for that, and all the kinds of studies they did for traffic studies. So I think that we're wasting a lot of money, and we could do it. We could hire people and do it in-house. I can't imagine it being very difficult to do. That's all. So good luck, because here's what I was talking about. I was talking about someone who's in government with NASA and so forth. If you let engineers get a hold of it, you triple or quadruple the cost. So that's just one of the Martin Marietta people who works with NASA, and they just see government spending has gone crazy. You give the government the money to do it, it's going to cost a lot. So I think you need to start saving some money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I apologize that folks interrupted your time. I'm conscious about it. Thank you. All right.
You got an 8.
I know, right? All right, so can I have a motion, please?
Yeah, I recommend that we approve the continuing consulting contract, task order 9 in the amount of $440,825,000 for consulting and design services for the Broad Streetscape project, and authorize the city manager to execute the task order and approve the associated budget amendment at our next regular city council meeting.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? City Clerk, can you call the roll?
Member Aker,
Yes.
Member Moscoso,
Yes.
Chairman Connors,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cole,
Yes.
Member Mutter,
Yes.
Member Stokel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Ms. Sue. Executive Director?
Sir, we have no new business. Next is petitions and requests.
Mr. Johnson?
Stan Johnson, you're probably not going to be happy with what I have to say, but there's an article in the newspaper. It's, the title of the article is Brevard Targets Chemicals in Water. It's PFAS and all kinds of that stuff. The date of the newspaper article is January the 12th. That's Monday. That's not very long ago. And it talks about the limits of EPA requires you to have only 4 parts per million. 4 parts per million. That 176 parts per million. That's what our water was tested at and exclaimed in the Guardian. We beat MIMS with its 176. We are 4 divided into 176 is 44 times. We are 44 times the maximum limit allowed. Stella Bailey should be here. She should be. I can't understand what's going on. I think what the city has done, Mr. Kevin Cook can probably correct me, it seems that we're not using any of our wells except the Farmington wells and water from the city of Cocoa. I believe that's what we've done to solve that problem. So all of our other wells are not being used. I believe that's correct from what Mr. Ball said. I don't know, Kevin, you might have been listening to what we're saying. Pardon? Yeah, so anyhow, 176 parts per million is a big deal because they're saying this stuff is hot stuff. So when it was brought up years ago, when I had this poster produced of 176, is the city decided they weren't going to test their PFAS. So I don't know whether we did, but if we did, I think it was the council never supported testing of this PFAS at 176, and now our government says 4 parts per trillion is the maximum. So we are, at that time, we were at a level from that test of 44 times what's acceptable, which you call, that's not 100%, that's 4,400% over the limit. I think you guys should think about what's going on and listen to what some people are saying, including some experts like Stella Bailey. And you're not doing it. Even the Guardian newspaper. This is a problem. Not a little problem, a big problem. Same thing with drainage too. These dams are not legal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Even though we're not in a regular city council meeting, Mr. Cook, what is the EPA standard?
So for PFOA and PFOS, the final MCL is 4 parts per trillion.
4 parts per trillion. And what are we measuring at?
2.2 and 2.4 as of our last quarterly testing, which was September of this year, of 2025.
Thank you. All right, Executive Director, oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I got inundated with thinking about PFAS.
I'm not. Lisa Mosier, Titusville. Just wanted to say thank you to the CRA and the city for having the informational meeting yesterday for the Main Street. It actually, I thought, went pretty good. There was a lot of folks there, probably, I don't know, how many did we have, 40?
It was over 40.
40? So we hope to organize ourselves and then come back and maybe get a liaison from the city or the CRA or Sue or something like that. So we hope to kind of move things forward and help bring some life back into downtown. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shifalo, the historic Norwood House. I saw in the city manager's report for this meeting that he's reporting that the city community development director, I suppose that's Brad, NASA SpaceX Kennedy Space Center regarding structural monitoring of historic structures in the CRA. I would like to suggest that your Historic Preservation Board be on board with that monitoring of the historic structures. I believe Roz Foster was initially involved. I haven't heard anything else about it. I'd like for that to be official. I'd like to say that Scobie Park was paved with pervious pavement. I ride my bicycle down there to watch the launches when they bring the booster back because I can see them perfectly fine from my yard, but I can't see it brought back. So I really appreciate that, but I'd like to suggest that the city keep the mangroves trimmed so that dissatisfied civilians, not me, of course, would come and rip them out or cut them down. So I think if we're proactive and keep them in hand so we can see the launches, and I realize it's like a juggling show. Once the launch gets started, once the juggling show does, everything's up in the air anyway, but still, it's really nice to see that smoke over there across the river, coming from the exhaust as the rocket's getting ready to go. And the third thing I wanted to speak about is the Historic Preservation Board is working on a new program to recognize mid-century modern architecture in the space industry comes to Titusville. I suggested it. I think it's a great project. I'm not real fond of mid-century modern myself. I'm into the more historic, older places, but there's a really rich stock of mid-century modern, and especially since the space industry came to Brevard County and Titusville in the 50s and 60s. And I'm very enthused now. I'm working with the Space Museum about collecting stories, not so much about famous people who worked at the Space Center and what they did, but what they did when they came home to Titusville. And if they lived in a mid-century modern house, oh, that's my gold nugget. I'm looking for someone like that. I may have it. And then I want to speak about the Main Street meeting. It was very informational, but not very inspirational. It was very fact-filled. I'm very familiar with the Main Street program myself, having worked both as an entertainer and as a participant, a civilian citizen in towns that have Main Street, and as a pusher of the Main Street program for the city of Titusville. Parking, you're going to find that people are going to say, parking, we don't want to have it because parking is a problem downtown. Parking problem is a perception, not a reality. And Sue has lots of information to dissuade that opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we go into the executive director's report, I was at the Main Street informational meeting. And I think the challenge with that, because I understand, Tony, you've done a lot of research, as Sue has, and several people in the room had, but a lot of people didn't even know what it was. Yeah. Right? So you got to kind of start from the building blocks, right? And letting people know what it looks like, the time commitment, and getting folks on board for Main Street, because, Cocoa has one, Melbourne has one, or Orlando has 15 of them, about bringing that prosperity back to our downtown. So young families have things to do on the weekends. We can celebrate our history and all the great things that come with it. So we're working towards it, and I'm excited because there's been a lot of interest. And even since that meeting, I think a lot of people said, yep, I'm on board. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and get to work and help make my community better. And I appreciate you being one of them.
May I just say one other thing? I'm very happy to hear that because she didn't go into all the really fun things that can happen with the Main Street program. So if people are excited just from all the information they got, imagine what they'll do when they know what the full program is.
Yes. Yeah, she needed to be the one kind of explaining the process. We're the ones, selling it to the community and getting them excited. So, Executive Director?
Yes, sir. The Executive Director's report just has a list of tasks that staff is working on, and past two speakers, the mayor already alluded to the fact that the Main Street workshop was yesterday, and it was very well received. Looking forward to getting that program off the ground. And also, Sue handed out the monthly visitors report for the Welcome Center. And that's all.
Member Moscoso?
Sure. Could you explain a little bit, and Tony touched on it, number 8, you're collaborating with Community Development Director, NASA SpaceX Kennedy Center regarding structural monitoring. What is that looking like, and what have those conversations been?
We have been on phone calls with all of those entities to be sure that Titusville is front and center. We have a lot of historical buildings, and so we wanted to be sure that we were on that list to have some of our buildings monitored. One of them I know is St. Gabriel's. What are the other? There's one more, yes?
Pritchard House.
Oh, Pritchard House. So we wanted to be sure we were on those calls. Those were with all the cities, and Titusville was always up front and first because we're the closest. So when those super heavies go off, what they're going to do is monitor those 2 structures and for a baseline, and then once we have some of the super heavies go up, they'll be monitored and we'll get those results. So we have a seat at that table.
And do you know how they chose those 2 structures?
We were the ones that requested those 2.
Okay.
Each city got a certain amount, and we were allotted 2. We had 4, and then it went down to 2.
Okay.
But those were the 2 that we wanted on the list.
Okay, thank you. And this is an excellent report. I really appreciate it. I have one more question about number 3, and this is the handprint monuments at Spaceview Park. Could you give us an update on that? And then I would love if we could get perhaps like a social media post or some information out for people. I know I walked through it recently for the Star Party with my kids, and they were asking me about it, and I didn't remember what was happening there. So maybe we can get more information out to people, because it's such a historic part of our community, and just letting people know it's coming back and it's going to be better. But if you could give us more information, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. As you remember, the handprints that were on top of the posts that lined the sidewalk, those were crumbling. So the real challenge for us was we were going to lose those valuable handprints of the astronauts. So there is a contractor, Pamco, I think the name is, and they have since been removed. They are with that contractor, and they're being, I don't know what his term is for it, but made to where they are going to go on the large granite monuments closer to the water. That's where they will be placed, so people can walk up and put their hands in their hands. Along with what that is going on now, you approved for 10 solar lights down that walkway, because the lights used to be on the posts. Those solar lights have been in production. We just got an update on the shipment. They should be shipped at the end of this month. So then we can start work on that. So it's going to take some time, I know, because there's a lot of moving pieces. And then the final piece would be the landscaping, because you've approved that, and the irrigation, so that the CRA will fund monthly.
Thank you. And then at the Star Party, and I got an email, I'm not sure if you guys did, there's a man who, he talks a lot about light pollution, and I'm not sure if that's something that we've looked into in the CRA, or what that even looks like. But is that something we've considered with, especially that area?
That's the Dark Sky Initiative, and there's been some conversation on it, but there's never been anything that the CRA has picked up on to move forward with the dark sky. There's a lot of different levels to it. But
Do you know of any communities around here do the Dark Sky Initiative?
Groveland is the only city in Florida that is certified as a dark sky city.
Okay. Great.
I mean, there's
thank you.
nothing there. And Groveland's just a bunch of fields. I'm sorry, that sounds like a slam dunk for them. Member Aker.
Concerning Starship and the effects that it may have on buildings, I think I've alluded or told you in the past, even the shuttle has cracked some of the windows in downtown. To have a mechanism in place and someone to communicate with if we do get damage as a result of those, of the launches or the return, which is more of a concern, the sonic boom on the return. Do we have a mechanism in place so that the building owners aren't bearing the cost of, $5,000, $10,000 worth of broken glass?
The agreement that we have with NASA and FAA is strictly about historic preservation. And it's strictly, right now, the 2 structures, I thought there was a third one, I was looking it up, but are going to be monitored. And so based on the results of what's each of those launches, they'll look at that, and the landings, they'll look at the results of the monitoring equipment that'll be on those buildings, in addition to other buildings around our region. They'll determine, well, we'll get together as a consulting party, and all of us will consult as to whether this is good data. Should we look at other structures? Should the monitoring equipment be relocated? Should it be expanded? Or maybe there's no impact at all, and then it should be narrowed. And that's the key of the agreement that we have with FAA and NASA. We can share the agreement with you. There is really little recourse, to be honest, about how, if there's damage found. So basically, the agreement is basically just to figure out whether there's any issue and to monitor and to come up with recommendations.
Well, there's no mechanism, say they do a launch, windows break, there's really no mechanism in place to who to talk to or who to negotiate with, because I've got still probably 4 buildings with turn-of-the-century glasses not tempered that when it goes, if it's bigger than the shuttle bang, we're going to get some cracks.
We're not aware of a mechanism that would help with that.
No mechanism for
sir.
that.
I'm not aware.
So do we have a contact person that if a building owner can take it upon themselves, maybe we could look into getting a contact person so that, I don't think it'd be fair for the building owners to absorb, thousands of dollars just for something that not their fault.
Right. No, I understand. That's why they're doing this. We were involved because we're a certified local government. So because of the statute or the federal Section 106 process, we were able to be a party to this. If we weren't a certified local government, we wouldn't have any involvement in this at all. And so the extent of the involvement is our ability to have input on the monitoring and the impact. But as far as I know, there is not a specific mechanism that I'm aware of to address the question you have.
Figure it out when it comes.
Member Moscoso?
Sorry, thank you. Would you keep us up to date if there's anything that changes or any new information on that? Because I know that that's probably going to be a question that we get once this starts. And I'd love to be able to have a response to people. Then I'm sorry, at least like Dr. Aker was stating, like if there could be a point of contact that we could point people to if there are potential issues.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else for the good of the order? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Or adjourn. Thank you very much.